Welcome to the Sebcast, where we look deeper, ask bigger questions, and discover how Jesus is still changing the world. There is an interesting phenomenon that psychologists call the Dunning-Kruger effect. People who know the least are often the most confident, and people with the most wisdom usually live with greater humility. The more you understand, the more you realize how much you still do not understand. James knew this long before modern psychology. He writes in James 3:13-18 about two kinds of wisdom. One comes from above, the other comes from within. The one brings peace, gentleness, and life. The other brings jealousy, self-centeredness, and chaos. It is interesting. James does not first ask, "Are you right?" He asks, "Where does your wisdom come from?" Because that is the question every person ultimately has to answer. Who gets the right to determine what is good? Our culture says, follow your heart. But, remarkably, the Bible rarely gives that advice. On the contrary, the Bible seems to say that our hearts are wonderful servants, but terrible masters. Our desires are not always bad things, but they are not always reliable advisors. Sin does not simply mean that people break rules. Sin is when people try to replace the design. When we decide that we know better than the one who designed life. And yet Jesus does not call himself Savior. He calls himself Rabbi. Teacher, come learn from me. This is so different from the modern idea that adulthood means no one can tell me what to do anymore. According to Jesus, adulthood is not independence. It is teachability. That is why true discipleship does not begin with self-confidence, but with humility. With the ability to say, Lord, I do not always trust my own judgment. Teach me. And that is why, at the #1 network for your life, we so strongly believe that faith is not a solo project. We need people, we need voices, we need community. Because God rarely forms people in isolation. You rarely become the product of one big decision. You become the product of the direction in which your small decisions and the people around you take you. Maybe the greatest sign of spiritual maturity is not having all the answers. Maybe it is that you have finally learned enough to pray, Lord, teach me what is good. The wisest people are not those who know everything, they are those who know whom to follow. Until tomorrow, take care